Well, here's a little interesting video I wanted to make a while ago and finally remembered to do it. And I've got them inside here on a rainy day, so I wanted to compare these two. The 500 bullet in the foreground, which is an Indian-made model, but it's an iron barrel, so it's comparable to the British one, and the 64 Interceptor 750. So you can see that these two share a lot of similarities. And I just was curious as to how much of them was similar, and they're surprisingly close. Took a couple of measurements. I'm not using specific ones from a manual or anything, but just with my tape measure, checking the height and the length and so forth. And the height's about the same. Top of the gas tank's at the same distance off the ground. The seat height I can't really compare because the bullet has a non-factory low seat on it, but the frame right at about the same position there at the back is nearly identical. And then the wheelbase between the axles is 3 inches longer on the Interceptor. So aside from that, very, very similar looking and size bikes. You just get a lot more engine in the 750, obviously. But it is remarkable how they managed to keep one standard, basically, through an entire lineup of machines. So, not a whole lot of difference. Now, there is differences, of course, obviously, you can tell in the shape of the gas tank. Definitely different. And the style of the fenders varies. You can see there at the front, the Interceptor has a more balanced look to it. And the rear also is going to be different in shape. So handlebar positions also are going to be a little bit different there. The bullet has relatively low bars, where the Interceptors kind of come up and out. And obviously the instrumentation is different between the two. And the toolbox style is different. Royal Enfield went to this probably in the late 50s, early 60s. These, although they kept them on the Indian-built bullets, I don't know that those toolboxes survived through the run on the Redditch-built ones. But you can tell the same timing case design was used both on the singles and the twins, although it's very different in shape. The exhaust tucks under very close to the oil filter on the twin, and the exhaust pipe is on the outside and clears handily the filter on this one. This one you can do without taking the exhaust pipe off the bike. Where that one you got to take the pipe out of the head. Not one of their better moves. The frame at the front, same basic idea. Down two, but the engine being a stressed member. These have the headlight in the nacelle, where these used a more common style pedestal mount. Although some of the twins I do believe did have a nacelle version. Brake hubs are very similar on this later model bullet, but the earlier ones would have had the single leading shoe brake, and those are very tiny in comparison. Horn placement similar but different. Facing forward on the bullet, facing out to the side. And then your timing cover, same basic idea. Large rubber gasket holds that in place, seals it up very well actually. Same application here. This one just has the extra hump at the front for the starter drive, which has been removed because it's tremendously unreliable. And that bike is so easy to kickstart, it doesn't need an electric start at all. So riding these, obviously the power delivery is going to be remarkably different, and the twin is way more powerful than the single is. For only another, 250-ish cc's, it's surprising. Actually, it's not that. I think this is 736, I want to say. It's not a true 750. But, yeah, remarkable power difference between this and the single. Probably handling is, although the single obviously feels lighter, I don't know that the twin feels really portly in comparison. I think the bullet doesn't have razor crisp handling more so than the twin is heavier and slower. They're actually a little bit closer than you might think, I would say, in that regard. Now, the two that I have, the transmissions are very different. This has the 4-speed Albion with the neutral finder lever. If you don't know what the neutral finder is on these, it throws a lot of people off. It's like, what's that for? Why do you have 2 kickstarts on your transmission? Well, that's the fine neutral in any gear except first. It'll kick it right into neutral for you. They got rid of that when they went to the 5-speed gearbox on these. They did not make for a very long time, but it's a very good transmission. But yeah, size-wise, they're very similar. As I said, the twin just has a longer wheelbase, but the rest of the bike is surprisingly comparable in size. So which would you rather have? Well, you always go with the more powerful model, but the simplicity of the single is a wonderful thing. The twin is more cantankerous. It's much more work to start, much more difficult to work on, mostly from an access perspective. Getting the gas tank on and off of that thing's a real pain in the butt, whereas it isn't too bad on the single, and you really don't have to take it off for very many things on the bullet. Price comparison between the two on the current market, I mean, you're going to pay, appropriately at least twice as much, if not 3 times as much for the twin. But more similar than dissimilar. And the single is why I bought the twin. I enjoyed the single. I loved its simplicity. I loved its design. I like the idea of not having a separate oil tank. There's just a lot to like about these two. So that's it, just a quick video comparing the two side by side. They don't often sit in here together like this. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions about these bikes, feel free to ask in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching.